Thank you, David. I specifically asked David to sing that this week because I love the song. Isn't that what we all want, just for living to be easy? My cousin Ozzy has been having some difficulties lately, as usual, but he's been having a tough time, and so I've been kind of pushing him to find some sort of spiritual direction. You know, he's not a true believer, but I think he can find a certain amount of solace in religion or in spiritual issues. So anyway, he heard that the Third Baptist Church of the Most Holy in Nunde, South Dakota, where he lives, was having an induction for people down by the river. And so he went down to check it out and see what it was all about. The pastor greeted him and asked him if he was ready to find Jesus. And Cousin Ozzy didn't really know what to think about that. He hesitated too long. The minister took that as a yes, so he took him by the arm and gently guided him into the river. Once there, he put one hand on the back of his head and the other hand on his chest, and he put him underwater, and he brought him up. And he said, "Did you find Jesus?" "No." So he put him under again and held him a little bit longer and brought him up and says, "Did you find Jesus?" Cousin Ozzy said, "No." So he put him under again, and this time he held him till Ozzy was almost out of breath. When he brought him up in a bellowing voice, he said, "Did you find Jesus?" Cousin Ozzy said, "No." "Are you sure this is where he fell in?" Oh, boy. You know, if I didn't have a Cousin Ozzy, I'd probably have to invent him. He is just so full of stories. So, summertime, the living is easy. That's the question. Is your life easy? You know, it'd be nice if it was always easy, but it isn't. We have problems, we have challenges, we have setbacks, we have upsets that bring with them a deluge of worry, fear, and anxieties. Life isn't always easy. It's difficult. There was a time in my life, for a long stretch, life was not easy. It was difficult every single day. It was a routine of monotony. I would get up, I would do the same thing every single day, come home unsatisfied, go to bed, and start it all over the next day. I felt like the Greek character Sisyphus. Sisyphus would get up in the morning, he'd walk down the road to a hill. In front of the hill, there was a huge boulder. He'd spend all day pushing that boulder up the hill. At the end of the day, it was up on top of the hill. He went home, fell into bed exhausted, only to get up the next morning, walk to the hill, and see that the boulder had rolled down. So he started it all over again. Can anybody identify with that? Those times in your life where nothing just seems to be going the way you want it to go? Where problems upon problems continue to congregate in your front yard, and yet it looks as if there is no hope, as if there is no faith about anything ever getting better. Well, during that difficult time in my life, I found unity, and I discovered in unity there are principles and there are practices that we can apply and that we can utilize that actually make a difference in our lives, that change things. That we aren't stuck with a particular destiny that we have no control over. That we aren't stuck with problems that can't be solved or challenges that can't be overcome. We have principles, spiritual principles that we can utilize. And the first principle is to envision within your mind the kind of person you want to be and the kind of life you want to have. Get that picture in your mind, get that idea in your mind. See that vision with clarity. How do I want my life to be? Well, I want it to be happy. I want it to be peaceful. I want it to be harmonious. And even though there's some stumbles in that path, or on that path, that's how I want it to be. And I want to be a person that is kind. I want to be a person that is happy. I want to be a person that has many friends. If you want to change your life, the first place to start is in your relationships. 85% of all the experiences that you have to do with you relating with other people. 85% of everything is the experience that comes from other people. If you have a life that is characterized by anger, you have relationships that are characterized by anger. If you have a life that is boring, you have relationships that are boring. Everything from relationships comes back to define your life. Now, when it comes to relationships, the very first principle that we can act, and this comes from the ancient Tantek Indian tribe that existed about 1,000 years ago, and they came up with some ideals that you could set in place to make your life happy, loving, and more fulfilling. And a fellow named Don Luis, I forget his last name. Anybody know what? 4 Agreements? Don Luis Regal. Don Luis Regal is from this heritage, and so he studied the context and came up with a book called 4 Agreements. And these are 4 agreements that you make with yourself. And the very first agreement is be impeccable with your word. Now that calls on us to be integrous with our word, with the words that we speak. And when he says be impeccable with your word, that means never utter a word to anybody or anything that depreciates their being. And I know we get in arguments sometimes with other people, and there are conflicts, and sometimes we lose our temper and we say things we wish we wouldn't, but words have the potential to hurt. And once the word is spoken, it can never be taken back. Once the bell is rung, you can never unring it. Once you throw that stone, you can never unthrow it. It's the same thing with words. Hurtful words, when put out there, are like a pebble dropped in a stream. The ripples go out and out and out. And it's very difficult to remove from memory a hurtful word that somebody has received. So be impeccable with your word, not only when it comes to other people, but also when it comes to yourself. Don't ever condemn yourself. Don't ever depreciate yourself. Don't add anything to yourself that has a hurtful nature to it. Now, I know we all grew up to a certain degree with criticisms from outside that weren't kind, and we might have come to believe some of those things. If you were a young child raised in a negative environment and you were told that you weren't a good person, or that you were stupid, or that you weren't as good as somebody else, you probably believed that. And even though today you know it's not true, there are times when you might do something that causes a problem, you might make a mistake of some sort, and that little voice comes up and says, there you go again. You just can't seem to get it right. Dad was right. I'm not as good as I should be. The teachers were right. I might never, ever be able to learn how to be a good person. That little voice needs to be silenced because it's not based on truth. It's based on old recordings that go on and on and on. Nevertheless, they do have an effect on how we feel about ourselves. So be impeccable with your word. Don't condemn, harshly criticize, or harshly judge other people in a way that is hurtful, and don't do that to yourself. Now, the second agreement is don't take things personally. You know, I can be walking down the street and not really be aware of what I'm doing, accidentally bump into somebody, and that person can turn around and lambaste me and tell me that I'm stupid and I need to watch where I'm going and all this other stuff. I can take that personally and have it really hurt me and carry it through the rest of the day. Or I can say, well, maybe that person is having a bad day. When people strike out at you with mean words, with hurtful words, with disparaging words, just know that there's something in them that causes them to utter those words, that they're hurting. When somebody is highly critical of other people all of the time, you know that person has that same self-critic within them that they have to live with 24 hours a day. Each and every one of us has to stand strong in our truth. And the truth is that we are students of life. We're not graduates. We're learning how to be human beings. We're learning how to be spiritual beings. And mistakes are going to happen. And problems are going to happen. There's never been a single person on this earth that hasn't made a mistake or hasn't irritated others in some way, including Jesus. I mean, he had swarms of people that would surround him when he talked and throw stones and criticize him and tell him that he needed to leave the area and all sorts of different things. But he stood firm in who he was and the message that he had to give. I think the most important thing that all of us can do is to, first of all, have an unconditional acceptance for the self. And then the second thing is to allow that to radiate out and accept others in an unconditional way. There are 4 things that we can do to monitor whether our speech is right or not. And we talked about these in the discussion group this morning, and we couldn't determine whether it was Socrates that said this, the Dalai Lama, or Ringo Starr. One of those three said these four things. Criteria. When you get to that point where you feel you're going to utter some sort of a sentence or words that are hurtful, just stop for a second and ask, first of all, is it truthful? You know, for some reason, we have a fascination with gossip. And I'm not saying that we in this room do, but there's a lot of people out there that do. They love to gossip. If there's the tiniest bit of juicy gossip about somebody that brings them down, that makes them look foolish, they can't wait to tell somebody else. Why? Because it makes them feel better. We especially love it when some person of power, some person of fame, some person of riches does something wrong and gets caught, like a politician having an affair or a Hollywood movie star getting picked up for drunken driving, whatever it might be. You know, there's a word called schadenfreude, and schadenfreude means to take delight in another person's misery. And for some reason, there's a fascination with that in our culture specifically. More so than in other cultures around the world. So when we move to that point where we don't gossip, we don't take things personally, we measure ourselves as to is it true? And the second thing, is it necessary to say it? If you're irritated with somebody because they did something that hurt you, it might be true. But to strike back, is that really necessary? And the third thing is it useful? Will it improve the situation? Will it make things better? Will it help repair the relationship between you and the other person? And then the last thing is it kind? I think that is the first call to duty for each and every one of us. We are here on this earth. We are sharing it. We often talk about oneness. We are one species on this earth that is governing the planet, basically. We're all here together. There's one moment that is being shared right now by everybody on earth, whether they're sleeping on the other side of the world, or whether you're here in this room, or whether you're locked up in a prison someplace. It doesn't make any difference. We're all sharing this moment, and the only obligation we have, the only calling we have, is in this moment to be kind to our brothers and sisters that are sharing this planet with us, whether they're kind to us or not. That doesn't make a difference. What they do basically is none of our business. We just have to immunize ourselves from their sharp attacks. Now, I don't know how many of you used to watch Kung Fu on TV with David Carradine. Anybody here? Yeah. Well, he was raised in a Kung Fu commune, and he was taught the martial art from a very early age. Came to America, and he was a law-abiding person that went around and helped people. But he had this incredible ability to slow down time. So when he'd come up against an enemy that wanted to hit him, or somebody afar that would throw a knife at him or something, he would just stand his ground and he would watch that knife come to him. Slow motion. And just as about ready to hit, he'd step out of the way. He wouldn't be harmed. We can do that same thing when we're in the company of somebody that is upset, that's irritated, that's angry with us, and that is shooting out hurtful words with the intention of demeaning us. We can tell those words are coming our way, and we can simply step back and let them pass, bid them good day, and continue on. So as they move into meditation, I want you to take a moment to think about your life and the things that are going on. Where is there a spot in your life that you can go out and express kindness into it and make things better? Is there a person around, and we all know them, that's living a life of misery, that's highly critical, that's highly negative, that never seems to have things go right for them? What can you do to go out and express a little bit of kindness to that person to improve their life? Each and every one of us is a disciple, so to speak, and I don't use that word lightly, but we are a disciple to go out and make the world a better place. It's just as simple as that. Go out and make the world a better place because of us. So let's move into meditation. Take a moment to relax. Take a deep breath. Slowly exhale. We now prepare for meditation.
A secret meeting place, lovers there.
Now, as we move into meditation, I invite you to take a moment and put your hand over your heart. Breathe in. As you do so, feel the breath around the heart. It's a breath of love. As you breathe out, do so through the diaphragm, and you exhale any energy that doesn't support you. And breathing in, feel the breath surround the heart. And breathing out. Now, with your hand over your heart, think of something in your life that you're extremely grateful for. It could be a person, it could be a place, it could be a thing. Something that enriches your life and that gives you great pleasure. Something that gives you a feeling that makes you glad you're alive. How beautiful life is. On the spiritual path, we live one day at a time, and doing the best we can, learning from our mistakes, celebrating our successes, always moving forward. When we go to bed at night, the last thought we can have is, the world is a better place because of me today. I made somebody feel good. I did something that helped. Just by being me, the world was a better place. And we rest easy in this thought, knowing that each and every one of us is a beneficial presence to this earth. We rest easy in this silence. Rest easy with ourselves. And we express gratitude for the person that we are in the silence. Slowly begin to bring yourself back to this time and this place. And as I speak these words, please make them your own and say them back to yourself. I am happy to be alive. I am happy to be me. I am happy to be here now. And so it is.